This time, by far the greatest team, pre-season specials.
Never no more, 'cause I'll stay a wild rover forever and
more. Hello and welcome to By Far the Greatest Team, a podcast in which football fans attempt to decide once and for all who is the greatest football team of all time. My name's Dunn, and together with my fellow self-appointed arbiter of football greatness, Jamie Rooney, and our guests over the various weeks, we have covered over 13 dedicated podcasts and an end-of-season review. We've put 28 teams under the microscope of greatness. Each week, we place them into one of 5 primary categories of greatness, from all-time greats at the top through true greats to touch of greatness in the middle, before dipping down to edge of greatness and our bottom of the tier category, blinkered greats. You can check out all the teams and our rankings so far at our website, chewingthewildrover.com. We've reached the end of our first season, but that isn't it. You are going to be hearing from us over the summer, aren't you, Jamie?
You are indeed. We don't want to go silence over the summertime. So whilst we're doing preparation, in our summer camp in the south of Spain, we've got a few little pre-season bite-sized friendlies to share with you. Some teams that probably wouldn't make our normal edit, but we think very important and definitely worth knowing about. So over the next few weeks between now and we kick off on the 3rd of August with our second season, we will be covering the teams such as emyrne from Madagascar, an incredible story of an incredible scoreline. We're also going to be talking about Galt FC, who travelled down to St. Louis in 1904 to play in the Olympic Games and represented Canada. We're also going to be talking about the first ever Women's World Cup. No, not the one in 91, the one in 1970. And when Denmark were able to travel to Italy and beat all before them. We're then going to finish up before we get into season 2 with a lovely hometown story. Harlow Town, 1979, 1980, a team from the lower tiers going all the way to the 4th round of the FA Cup.
These are great stories, and in the true style of the pod. Whilst we are on our pre-season training regime, we can still be reached in all normal places. So that is on social channels at By Far the Greatest FC, or on Twitter, myself at Said and Dunn, that's Dunn. And Jamie, how do people get hold of you?
I'm on Twitter as Couch Pundito, a rather unfortunate name that I picked around about 10 years ago that stuck, but seems a bit apt now that we're doing this thing. I'm also looking after our By Far the Greatest Team Insta account, where we're posting some of the stickers that we like to collect along our journey.
So do keep in touch, do keep listening to the back catalogue, and before we speak to you again for the prime season, enjoy our pre-season friendlies. We're going to Madagascar, not necessarily a hotbed of football. A team SO emyrne, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Stade Olympique emyrne. We're going back to 2002. In Madagascar at the time, there's the THB Champions League tournament, ends up in a 4-team playoff. And SEO emyrne they're actually the current holders. They won the title in 2001, the first time they'd ever done that in their history. And at the end of their second game, they're winning 2-1. They're well placed to make their way through this tournament, so they're winning 2-1. And there's a extremely controversial last-minute refereeing decision. There's, I think it's a last-minute penalty is given against them. They end up drawing the game 2-2. And with that, their chance of winning the title for a second consecutive year is over. And, you know, that decision is rumbling with them. They don't like that much. They've also stuck with, something we touched on in a previous pod, which is this dead rubber scenario, essentially the 3rd, 4th playoff. Only in this instance, they're left with a final game against their rivals, Edema. Now, details of exactly what happened are sketchy. So everything is based on reports, on hearsay, bits and pieces. There's no footage available for any of this. They played this game, I think, about a week after the previous game. So, they have had time for things to calm down since that controversial last-minute decision. They go into this game. Reportedly, an argument ensues between the coach and the referee, which inflames this whole feeling of refereeing bias against them. And the coach decides to hatch a plan, take perfectly rational and normal step, decides, I think we should protest this. What kind of protest should we do to do this? And Jamie, what protest do they come up with?
It's the most bizarre and intriguing protest I think football history has probably ever witnessed, and it's a remarkable outcome which goes into the Guinness Book of Records. So, like you, Graham, my knowledge of Madagascan football isn't as great as I'd like it to be. I hadn't come across any teams from Madagascar previously, a couple of films, but not football teams. And you're right, Graham. I mean, I have to confess I've struggled to find a lot of information. So their protest is that they decide that they are going to start the game and they're going to score in their own net, and they're going to continue to do this for the whole 90 minutes.
And in fairness, they take to their task very impressively. They stick to it. So, as you say, a dim kick-off, and shortly after that, SO Emyrne get the ball, proceed to kick it into their own net. Kick off again. It's their kick-off this time. Kick it into their own net. And they proceed to do this 149 times. Yes, 149 times in a 90-minute game. 149-0. The nil is not surprising because the only touch Edema have is from their initial play from the kickoff. Because, of course, once they've kicked off, and this is a flaw that the rule makers hadn't really factored in, because it's probably quite reasonable to think that no side would be immediately trying to deliberately score an own goal from kickoff, is that every time they scored an own goal from kickoff, they immediately restarted with the ball. So they always had the ball, and then they kick off at the start of the second half as well. So there's no opportunity for anything to change on this. And so the reports are of the opposition just looking on as just perplexed bystanders. But if you're really committed to it, there's no way you can barely get into the half before they kicked it back into the goal 149 times. The protest was definitely made.
It's totally perplexing. It's baffling that it's enduring. They would do this for the full 90 minutes, and maybe it's a goal. It's a goal every 36 seconds, which is incredible. Players go down injured for way longer than that in most games of football. Obviously, it predates so many things, but Opta stats on this one and heat maps would be just fantastic. I mean, you got a team that's won 149-0, and you look at their statistics, and they've had no shots on goal. They haven't touched the ball in the opponent's half. It's just incredible.
What is disappointing is it's not clear whether people took turns lining up scoring own goals like it's Murder on the Orient Express and it's Agatha Christie and they're all taking it in turns to put the knife in. It might not even be the right Agatha Christie, but I'd like to know whether. Was it just one player? Was it the same player? Were they competing to see who could score the most own goals? Were any of the players kind of hadn't bought into this and were trying to sabotage it themselves? Unfortunately, very little footage of this, very little reports of it. What does appear to have happened, that the crowd, obviously. I mean, there's a crowd there to watch. You can imagine there'll be some fans in there who go, I know we can't win the league this year, but I reckon if we come second, that would be a real tonic to boost us for next season. So I fancy our chances of getting a result there. Hello, something's odd, something's up. Just surreal.
And at what point, if you're a fan, and you're watching this, and there were. At what point do you stop getting angry at what's going on and start enjoying it and almost cheering goals against your team? Because you can't stop it. The script has been laid out. The agenda is clear. You know what you're going to be watching for the next 90 minutes. And if you choose to stay there, you've got to get on board with it, surely. You've got to enjoy it.
Definitely so. Great credit to them. The previous highest score or heaviest defeat to that stage was 34-0. So they've not just beaten that record, they've absolutely smashed it. There were some repercussions. The coach is banned for 4 years. 3 or 4 of the players are banned for the rest of the season. Interestingly, the referee, there's no action taken against the referee, which is seen as interesting. I mean, I think most referees might consider abandoning the game at some point or another, but fair play to him for just allowing this situation to continue to proceed in absolutely farcical levels. That was sort of the kind of end of, if there was a golden period for SO Emyrne, that was the end of it. That was the 2001 was to be the only Madagascan title they were to ever lift, unfortunately.
And here they are, noted in the history books for the heaviest defeat of all time. And I think even if somebody deliberately set out with a task to try to beat it, they're going to be up against it. I mean, a goal every 35 seconds. It sounds straightforward, but you've still got to get the ball back to the centre spot and you've still got to get it into the goal. So I think if somebody was to kind of take on the task to try to beat this record, this remarkable record, I think it would take some beating. I don't think it's an easy one to beat.
No, it is right up there. But trying to deliberately score an own goal is not as unusual as it might appear. As anyone who's watched Richard Dunn play would have any appreciation. I apologise, of course, to Richard Dunn,
or Jamie Carragher.
Or Jamie Carragher. Richard Dunn is I always liked Richard Dunn as a defender. He holds the record for the most own goals in Premiership history, 10 of them. There's a bunch on 7, which Jamie Carragher has won. I was delighted to see Michael Dubry bag 5 Premiership own goals because, of course, Michael Dubry played for Oxford for a while and quite memorably for us in a game against Hereford managed to convert 2 own goals in the same game before popping up with a last-minute equaliser. So 3 of the 4 goals were Michael Dubry's, the 2 of them own goals. But interestingly, he said, and I think this is probably true of Richard Dunn and, a lot of these players who do it, it's the type of defenders they are. They are making those kind of last-ditch kind of tackles, last-ditch kind of saves, which puts them in that danger. It did seem like it was a well-worn line from somebody who had made a series of own goals over the years. Interestingly, and maybe something for Harry Kane to consider, he's on 3 own goals at the moment in Premiership history. He is joint 45th on the list of own goals in the Premiership. And I fancy he might have another one in him. I think I'd like to see him move further up those ranks.
What part of Harry Kane could be tempted to go for the Richard Dunn record? And then whilst he's also going for the Alan Shearer record, so he could end his career being the highest goal scorer in Premier League history, as well as the most own goals in Premier League history. I mean, that's a wonderful double. I mean, it's the only double Tottenham are going to win.
Definitely so. So these guys weren't deliberately trying to score own goals, but there is a game where both teams have been trying to score own goals. I think this is an even more glorious game than the Emyrne one. So this is, I don't know if you're familiar with this game, it's Barbados v Grenada, 94. And due to this amazing quirk, and this is the classic example of unintended consequences. So it was about the time the golden goal was coming in, or had come in, and that we think that big unintended consequence of the golden goal was that all football would become really boring in extra time. The idea was, could you imagine if you went into the extra time and it was next goal wins, we're back on the playground, there'll be something glorious to emerge with the tension. And actually all that happened was that teams defended and didn't try and score for half an hour, and penalties became more regular and they were really dull. But what the extra unintended consequence of it is if you came up with a rule where I'll tell you what, the golden goal's so special. That's worth 2 goals. Nothing could go wrong with that, could it? Unless perhaps you end up in unusual circumstances, as they did in the Caribbean, where Grenada are topping the group, and as long as they don't lose to Barbados by 2 goals or more, Grenada will go through, and Barbados will go through if they win by 2 goals or more. You can start to see things going wrong. Barbados go 2-0 up. Everything is normal. Everything's sort of fine. And then the trouble hits when Grenada pull back not so much a consolation goal, a vital pull 1 goal back to make it 2-1. And then the game sort of carries on as normal for a bit until you get 3 minutes from the end where Barbados start to realise that what's more likely, them scoring in the next 3 minutes, or maybe having another half an hour and getting a golden goal, which will count twice. And they take the ultimate step, don't they? And they convert into their own net. And with 3 minutes to go, scores level, 2-2, extra time. That then gives them the chance to get their 2-goal margin just by scoring 1 goal in extra time. But Grenada work out what's happening, don't they, Jamie?
I mean, it's just, I fully commend the tactical awareness in the 87th, 88th minute where Barbados realised that by having an extra 30 minutes, they're going to greatly increase their chances of getting a golden goal, which counts as double, which would be the 2 goals that they need to win, over trying to get and scramble a 3rd goal to win 3-2 and thus go out. I think it's highly commendable, and it takes some coordination as well. I mean, if you're on the pitch and your team is set out to win a game of football, and then suddenly within a matter of moments, you've got this tactical instruction to score an own goal, that surely creates confusion. To convey the message across the team that actually us scoring against us actually benefits us. I mean, it goes against everything you've ever known about football. But to convey that message and to get it across and to execute it in that time frame, I think it's highly commendable. I think it's smart. But they do go into the golden goal period, and then they do take advantage of this ridiculous rule.
But of course, before they get into the extra time, Grenada then, it occurs to them that as long as there's another goal, they will go through, because if they score the goal, so they score in the right net, they win 3-2, so they go through on points alone. But if they lose 3-2, if they concede another goal and lose 3-2, they also go through on goal difference, because there's only a 1-goal margin rather than a 2-goal margin. And so, in what I can only think of is the most surreal passage of football, only sadly a shockingly short 3-minute period of football, Grenada realised that they can score in either net, and they go through. But it hadn't occurred to me, conveying that message across the 11. Hang on, we're trying to score in our own goal now, or not. And sadly, again, I searched for some footage because I so want to see this. But basically, it turns a genuine game of football into a training match where you're going, all right, Bibbs, you're trying to score into both goals, and non-Bibbs, you're trying to stop them. For 3 minutes, it's that kind of. I mean, where would you stand? What? How would you set up? Presumably, the Barbados players can't stand in the way. You know, they can't block Grenada defenders from scoring their own goal. Otherwise, they won't be offside, I guess, because it'll be passed back from the opposition. So maybe they can do that. So do you just position 5 on either side? Absolutely extraordinary. Barbados, I don't think they can claim the moral high ground, as they definitely started it. But to their credit, they do manage to prevent Grenada scoring in either net. And it does go to extra time. And Barbados get their golden goal, get their 2 goals, go through, and successfully fail at the next hurdle and don't qualify out of the next group. So there is some sort of justice, but that story is just extraordinary thing, isn't it?
It is, and this is the type of things we want to showcase. I mean, this is similar to what we talked about with Austria and West Germany, the disgrace of Lyon, when Algeria were denied a place. These are the idiosyncrasies in football that make the game incredible and fascinating. And for that 3-minute period, I mean, we're talking about so my pronunciation of Madagascan French names is not very good. I'm apologizing in advance. But here we are talking about another game, Barbados and Grenada, where they decide to play against their own goalkeepers in the last few minutes of a competitive football match, just to gain the upper ground on a ridiculous rule that had been introduced to make football more interesting. And it did.
It was definitely more interesting. Definitely more interesting. The 2-goal golden goal didn't last. That was also ended after this. There was a lot of animosity. I think in both those matches, the legacy is impressively. They're in the history books, but probably not for the best of reasons. I suppose we should think about where S.O. I should pronounce. My pronunciation is terrible, but I think it is S.O. emyrne, where they rank in the greatness of football. I mean, it's the greatest protest. The first thing I've got to say, it is the greatest protest. I mean, I don't know if you can imagine a petulant player, Jamie, someone who might, have a petulant streak in them, who might be prone to storming off the pitch or, whatever it is. But the level of commitment to decide to go out and score 149 own goals, if it sort of puts any other protest to shame, really, because no other protest could possibly match that. There's sort of no turning backs during the national anthem. It's nothing like that. It's no kind of not shaking hands at the end of the game. Whatever it is. No, we're going to absolutely make a complete farce of this game. You have to admire their commitment to the cause. But they are blinkered great, surely, Jamie. Can you come up with anything else?
Yes, I can. And just to go back and answer your question, I can't think of any petulant footballers right now, Graham. But I'll think that one over. I completely get what you're saying about the protest. It's a farcical, stupid protest where I can't imagine what was going through the minds of the opposition, the referee. What does the referee do in that situation? I mean, he's blowing his whistle for a kickoff. And that's it. He doesn't need to move. At what point does he decide, I don't need to do anything else other than stand here and just blow my whistle every 35 seconds?
Could he not? Okay, so could he not have, once it became apparent what they were doing, could he not have booked someone for ungentlemanly conduct?
It's a really good question. I mean, my knowledge of Madagascan football is not great. So Madagascan rules, I don't know. But if we apply the same rules that we have today, I don't think they're breaking any rules within the game. I don't think the referee would have any grounds to book anyone because they're playing the game. They're not infringing anything. The spirit of the game and the morality of the game is definitely called into question. But is that a bookable offence?
Where's Peter Walton when you need him? He'd say the referee got it absolutely spot on. I love Peter Walton.
Getting back to SOE, the Madagascan team that scored 149 goals, I think your bracket them into blinkered greats is as ridiculous as what they did. They're not great. We have a bargain bucket, and this is where this team lands. They're securing the history of the worst football result, being on the end of the worst football result, which they orchestrated themselves, and that's secure. I don't think that's going to go away, and I'd be surprised if that's ever beaten. But they're not great, and they don't deserve to be on our board of greatness.
You are right. I mean, I kind of love them, but yes, I think maybe they are in the rarely used, not great, but without them, we wouldn't be where we are today category, our occasional bargain bucket category. And I think that is where SOE are undoubtedly not great, but without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So that's all we have time for this week. A reminder, the full podcast returns in all its glory on Thursday, the 3rd of August. In the meantime, look out for our weekly pre-season friendlies And a reminder, you can contact us on all our social channels, and we'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe, like, tell a friend, and pass on our details. And we'll speak again soon.